Hi again, friends. Pray you guys are well. I wanted to share some thoughts today related to the parable of the sower, and only a little portion of it versus the whole parable. Many of you are going to be familiar with the parable already. And generally, I've taught through the parable of the sower so many times, and generally in Western context, everyone identifies with the danger of the third soil, or the one where the cares of this life come and they choke out the word. And generally, because of the wording of Matthew and Luke, people in the West generally think that they don't relate as much to this soil, the rocky soil in the parabolic form, where in a time in Matthew and Mark's version, in a time of trouble and persecution, they fall away because they don't have a root within themselves. And so I just wanted to highlight something else about this particular part of the parable, where Luke's version says, "These have no root." These are the ones on whom the seed falls in the rocky soil. It says, "And these have no root in themselves. They believe only for a while, and in a time of testing, they fall away." And so what I think that is happening here is Jesus is getting at something that actually grinds on us all very much here in the West as well. And what it is it's the moment when what Jesus has said gets tested, and then we see how deeply it's actually been implanted. Let me give you an example. Jesus' words essentially can, combined with his life, you can see them basically narrowed to, this is how one lives if you actually trust in God who raises the dead. And so versus, well, yeah, but, like, here's a common argument these days is, yeah, no, I understand the forgiveness bit and I understand the turn your other cheek bit, but if I literally follow the words of Jesus, then I'm just going to be someone's doormat, and they're just going to walk all over me. And I think this is actually what Jesus is talking about. He's talking about the pain, the tension that arises because of the pain of injustice. And we find out if we have a root system when we can actually still walk in his teachings or the ways of God when difficulty and injustice arise, because they're not fair, they're not right. And so when that thing rises up inside, one of the real tests of if we're going to endure to bear fruit unto eternal life, like he says in verse 12 in Luke 8, he says it's when the seed doesn't bear fruit, then the person does not believe and will not be saved. So I think essentially what he's saying is, my words are going to be tested because of the injustice of this age. And there is literally no other context for obeying Jesus in the present age than injustice. The Sermon on the Mount and its teachings come to mind quite a bit when I read passages like this. So, like, passages like, turn the other cheek and things like that, assume someone is going to be hitting you. Or, even if it's just a parable for something else, it assumes someone's going to be harming you intentionally. So obeying Jesus happens amidst injustice. That's the way it works. And, someone taking your coat, this is easy for me to relate to my kids with, because they identify so easily. I go, okay, so if we're reading Matthew 5 in the Sermon on the Mount, Jesus said obeying him This is what you do when someone hits you, steals your clothes, and is bossy with you and tells you to walk this distance with them. I said, can you guys relate to, and of course they can, because, I have 7 kids, so they're always, having issues with each other. And, but this is the way of obedience. The obedience is learning how to walk in the ways of God and the teachings of Jesus amidst terrible injustice. And sometimes it's worse than others. But learning how to walk and obey and walk in God's ways in the context of a delay of justice is maybe a better way to say it. There's a delay of justice that God has intended right now. God is not short-handed. It's not that he doesn't desire to establish justice in the nations and to do away with idolatry and perversion and oppression. That's what redemptive history is about. He longs to do that. But he's not waiting on this or that. He's not waiting till you and I form a movement that's powerful enough to deal with the problems of the earth. He's simply waiting on the day that he's appointed. Like Peter told Cornelius in Acts 10, he's appointed a day and he's waiting for that day. But the real grind of that is until the day comes, injustice prevails. It prevails in our relationships. Interpersonally, it prevails in our professional relationships. It prevails with political relationships. Injustice prevails. And what it means to walk with Jesus as a disciple during times like this is we learn how to submit to God and go, what's the worst that can happen? The worst that can happen is, whatever. I get walked on. I get, my friend John Harrigan once said, sometimes you just got to say, okay, so I could end up homeless under a bridge, and then I could die there. And then I'll be raised from the dead in eternal glory. Okay, that's literally the worst scenario, right? It's the worst scenario, especially here in the West. And so the teachings of Jesus are intended to sort of give us clarity and to also give us strength and a little bit of endurance when this persecution and difficulty arises. If we let them go down deep over time, then injustice arises. In the language of Jesus, someone smacks you on the face, someone takes your coat or your shirt, and someone demands that you walk a mile with them. And you have all these are all, things that, like I said, my kids can relate to a lot, but injustice are things that we can all relate to. And what it looks like to keep that seed so that it bears fruit 30, 60, and 100-fold is that amidst injustice, and yes, that includes the way your spouse talks to you, injustice, and it includes the way that guy, cut you off, or the way that guy mishandled your money, or the way we are giving evidence of if we are sons of our Father who's in heaven, like it says in Matthew 5. Are we sons of our Father who's patient with those who wrong us because we know that it's only temporary? The delay and the delay of justice and the delay of reward for what we've done before God is only temporary. It's coming. Anything that we've lost in this age in order that we might be loyal and give our allegiance to him, it's temporary. It will come back. And it will come back forever. And it won't just be for a moment. And so my thought here that I wanted to share and hopefully encourage us during times like this, this is really relevant always, but especially during times like this, it's the pressure starts up here and it grinds and it grinds and it always comes down and just in subtle ways works its way through in our relationships. And guys, a lot of this has to do with how we bear witness to our faith in the gospel. Do we believe that God's going to raise the dead? Do we believe that when he sends the Messiah, his reward is with him? If so, then why would we cling to having something here that's going to last 60 or 70 years, and we're going to have to fight everybody to hold on to it, why would we not just entrust all of it to God? Like 2 Peter 4 or 2 Peter 1. Sorry, not 2 Peter, 2 Timothy 1, where Paul says to Timothy, I know whom I have believed, and I know that he's able to guard what I've entrusted to him until that day. And I want to be able to say that. I want to be able to say that in my relationships. Oh, I know it seems like I should just set things right and I should put that person in their place, but I know whom I've believed, and I know that what I've guarded, my reputation, right? I didn't set things right when I was slandered. And I didn't put things right and make sure that people treat me the way I feel like I need to be. And that God's able to guard those things. And God is able to reward on the day when those things are overturned and made right. And so I just want to encourage you that injustice is a part of the plan. You suffering injustice is the framework for discipleship. And so I want to encourage you that the way the seed goes down deep, or at least the evidence that the seed has gone down deep, is when someone wrongs you or mistreats you or insults you, and you can entrust it to God. And you can do like Jesus taught. You turn the other cheek, you give them your coat also, you walk with them 2 miles. So when we get here, they believe only for a while because a time of testing comes. Or I said in Matthew and Mark, a time of trouble or persecution comes. And they do not have a root in them where the seed, right, using that analogy, the seed has sprouted underneath and it's got roots inside. And so when these things arise, then we have an answer for them. So those are my thoughts today. And I just wanted to share and remind everybody that the path of discipleship looks like navigating injustice like Jesus did. No one can take my life from me, said Jesus, but I give it freely. And this is what the path of being Jesus' disciple looks like. And we have many examples in his life. We have examples in the lives of the apostles and many disciples of Jesus since then. And it really is the path of guarding that treasure, the precious treasure of the gospel, and how it plays out often in our lives and in our relationships. So I hope you found it encouraging, and you can always let me know if you have questions or would like to leave any other comment. Anywhere you see the video posted, just leave a comment there. So may the Lord be with you. Shalom.